Hi, my name is Veronica Lee, and I want to share with you some information about connecting with your higher power, plugging in to Source. So the first thing I want to start with are the values. Why is it valuable to connect in with Source, to tap in, to get connected to this energy that we call our higher power? Well, for one thing, if we are trying to pull from our own energy, from our own power to create in our life, to make decisions, etc., we are only using part of this grander equation of what is. What we can do by learning how to regularly tap into Source, by regularly bringing information and alignment with this higher power, what we bring is our full self, our full power, our true power into every interaction that we do. It makes our decisions clearer. It makes our life flow a little bit more gracefully. When I look at the grander picture of things, what I see is that we are often continuously fighting static. So in other words, perhaps, we have a conscious connection with Source, and then there's this other thing happening. There's a distraction in the background. There's extra noise. Well, the first thing you want to do, if you can, now again, this isn't to take us off subject a bit, is to try to eliminate whatever extra static, whatever extra energy is not in your best interest, that is in your world, and take that and start to reduce or eliminate it altogether. So for example, I don't have a television in my home. Not only does it free up my time for plenty of more space and time and interaction with my family and things that I actually want to do, it also helps reduce that static, that background noise. If I am more conscious and really wanting to create quietude, let's say in my house, I may turn off the radio. The other thing would be to eliminate energies such as obligations or people or things that just don't resonate with you anymore. That's a larger task and a larger picture, but essentially by tapping into our own power, our true power, as we connect with Source, then those decisions become much easier and that elimination process just simply dissolves. Now, there are many ways to connect to Source, to tap into that essence that we want to call, let's say, God, Goddess, the divine. There's no perfect, true, absolute way. And if you believe there is, that's okay. Unfortunately, a lot of times that belief will confine what our experience may actually be, or as well as recognizing that we are divine and flow and Source are always there. It's simply a matter of us tuning into that. So what I will do is share with you my own personal ways that I connect with Source, so that you can see a variety of methods, as well as really get a sense as to my sort of comfortable way for me, and maybe something will ring true for you, but also maybe it'll give you permission that you don't have to sit in a quiet meditation for hours and hours and hours. So speaking of meditation, what I usually start my day with is what I consider a quiet, laying in bed moment to myself. It could be considered a meditation. And what I do is, without stirring, without really, hitting an alarm clock. Actually, I don't use an alarm clock, but without having to really be jarred awake, I have a sense that I'm awakening, that it's time to get up. I hear birds chirping outside, and I know, generally speaking, by the light what time it is, so there isn't a sense of having to rush. But even on the days that I need to rush, I take a few minutes just to simply be. And in that being, my eyes are already closed, generally speaking. I take some deep breaths and find my heart, breathing into that space and simply releasing any thoughts that are starting to spin from the morning. And with that, I just keep asking, allow myself to feel love. Allow myself to be open to the presence of what is. And as I breathe and bring in this energy, I'm simply opening, calming my physical body, opening up my essence to my divine conscious connection to what is, and allowing whatever comes up to just be. And in that moment, it helps me clear away any extra information or thoughts that may not get my day started so well. So it's very simple, very brief, maybe 5-10 minutes. I don't actually time myself, so I don't know what it is, but I do that until I feel either so anxious that, now I've got to get up, or till I feel like, I'm complete. The other thing I do is I will often say an intentional prayer. My prayer specifically is, Mother, Father, God, please open my heart to you and to me. Please infuse me with your sense of who you are, with your peace and love, infusing every piece of my body, my intention, with God information, with source connection. And that's all that it is, just opening my heart, saying yes to that. The other thing I will do is I will do what many people call automatic writing. I don't necessarily have an intention, but many times I do. So, for example, I often use what is a question-answer sort of intention. I will go in, I will bring my awareness to my heart, and in all honesty, I've done it with writing, but at this point I can do it with typing. I can sit at my computer and ask a question: what do I need to know? What do I need to know about? Or what is it that is calling to me in this moment, and allow that information to simply flow. And what's interesting is that as I tune in, sometimes I'll backspace and I'll change and tweak the little sentence or thought that I thought was going and it didn't feel right, so I back it up and retype so that it feels more resonant with what's feeling like it's coming through. The other thing I will often do is what I consider either sacred dance, or more specifically, it's more like meditative movement. So in other words, it may look like dance, it may actually look like yoga, but the difference is there is no judgment. It is free-formed movement. So what I will do is I'll find an inspirational CD or song, and in that it can even have words. It doesn't have to be specifically chanting or spiritual music. It could be something that is just moving within me that wants to be expressed. And again, I'll begin with sort of this presence, this bringing my awareness to my heart, to my center, breathing in, and then just slowly allowing that energy to just take me over, to really just come in and unite with my being as I move, as I decide, okay, does this feel good? And my mind starts to drop away, and that next thing I'm moving to is simply this spirit, this dance, so to speak, with spirit. In any moments that I feel disconnected, I don't necessarily have to say a prayer. I can also simply just visualize my connection. So in other words, I can take a deep breath, go in, and I almost always come into my heart, but it doesn't have to be for you. It could be in your, your third chakra, just below your heart, and kind of in your gut to feel, what's feeling right there in my belly? What is it that I'm needing to connect into, this center? For me, it's my heart, and what I'll do is I'll breathe in, close my eyes, and in that moment, I'll then imagine this energy moving upward through the third eye, through my crown, and then I imagine an opening. I imagine an opening to allow divine information, the heavenly realms, to come in through my being. It can be a quick meditation, or it could be something that I really take my time with and bring that energy in, and as I bring it in, I can even bring it all the way through my body, all the way down, and letting it flow through down into the earth. Breathing is huge. In other words, I know we always breathe. I know that this isn't stoppable necessarily. However, conscious breathing, taking that time to breathe and center, is really a lifeline for me. So specifically, I know that I'm most tuned in when I'm really so-called connected. I often find that I'm having to do a lot more out breaths than in breaths. So for example, that in-breath may bring me in, but when I'm really moving information, that power, that energy, that surge is so great that I'm often having to breathe out through my mouth to let that energy continue to flow. So if we imagine, this cycle, if we get too caught up in it, it could make us a little dizzy or, hyperventilate. So I'm not talking about that. But in other words, as the energy comes and it's really just pouring in, I could almost not handle it. So I'm having to do a lot of breath out, breathing that out through my mouth, letting that go. So you'll find a method that is right for you. There are methods that I don't use, but they are out there. And so if there's anything you can think of, by all means, tap in and try it. But some examples that work for people in terms of really connecting to source are drumming. There are so many methods of drumming, whether it's native drumming or whether you just have that sense of, tapping and rhythm that just carries you in. You can do that and enjoy that experience and that way of connecting. Chanting, of course. Again, it's that repetitive motion that kind of brings us in, that brings that intention, whether the chant is something that is in English, or if it's something that is in another language, doesn't really matter. And this is where, mantras come in. Maybe as you're breathing in, all you're breathing in is peace and exhaling love. So again, it's that rhythmic back and forth motion, whatever it is that brings us to that center. Sometimes rhythmical exercises can do it. So whether it's a flow yoga or whether it's running and you're jogging and you just have that kind of zone that you get into, or swimming where you're going back and forth, lap and lap and lap, then that can be another way to bring us into that connection of self, to our higher power. Sometimes art can do it. Again, it's about the flow. The problem with arts or crafts or any kind of activities is that sometimes, even with meditation, we can get sidetracked with our minds. Sometimes we can get caught up in this idea of a finished product and an end result. So that we have to really be a little bit more careful with. So for example, if you're going to paint, let's say, you can ask the paint, the canvas, that experience to come through you and allow whatever to come forth without judgment, without restriction. And again, maybe like my automatic typing, you may back up a little bit and say, that wasn't quite it, or maybe I'd tweak it a little bit over here just so it feels energetically right. Gardening can also be that experience. And with gardening, again, you can have a plan and say, I'm going to put this over here, I'm going to do this there. Or you can get present with your garden and ask, what is it that you want me to plant? What is it that you want me to do for you today? And then, of course, sitting and caressing a pet, being really present with a pet, a baby, nursing a child. These are all ways to bring us in. Another method that I do that I almost forgot personally, which reminded me in terms of, gardening and caressing a pet, is that I live in the country and I will often just go outside. So if I'm caught up in something, or if I just simply want to absorb all that is, I will take my chair or maybe even a little blanket, and I'll just sit and I'll just be in nature. I'll look over the landscape. I'll look over, I have a beautiful view in front of my house. I will let a pet, I have 4 cats and a dog, I will let one come over and just sit there and be in that moment, being with the pet, looking out in nature, expecting nothing. So there are so many ways to connect. There are so many things you can do to really start to tap into that greater you, that greater essence, that power within you. And you don't have to find any particular method every time. You can allow it to have variety, allow it to have flow and movement. And so what I'd like to do is invite you to try something, to experience anything. Pick one thing today and give it a try. Maybe you try something familiar. Okay, I'm very good at singing, for example, just letting my voice sing and doing a mantra. I'm very good at that. And so maybe you try that and give enough time that you really drop into that. A nice amount of time, but again, it's not a have to, it's about 20 minutes. Often 20 minutes is the amount of time we need to release the old, let go of our thoughts, and really sink into what we're doing. But don't, again, let that stop you. If you don't want to re-experience something that you've already done. Maybe you want to try something new. So with these suggestions, try something, try anything. If something comes into your inspiration, then by all means, let that be your guide. And with that, I bless you on your path to really connecting to your own higher source, to your own true power. And so it is.